Joining us now, former House of Delegates member and now candidate for mayor in Richmond, Joe Morrissey. By the way, Joe's getting married in a couple of weeks. We hope to be at his wedding. And I predicted that Joe Morrissey is going to win the mayoral election in Richmond. He's going to win it on the first ballot. And, you know, my predictive capability is uncanny. I'm about 95%. The biggest races, I never get them wrong. This is going to be the upset. It's going to have national reverberations. Morrissey is going to win. Joe, thanks for being with us, man.
Good morning, John. Good to be with you.
My predictions are very coveted, you know. Not everybody gets them, right? You put that in the release.
You've made a couple of predictions back. I remember 6 months ago, we chatted about this. You predicted that Trump would win the Republican primary. This is when, shortly after he made his announcement, and most of the major pundits in the United States, not just Virginia, in the United States, were dismissive and said there's no possible way. And you were right. And if I also remember correctly, you predicted a certain individual would win re-election to the House of Delegates in a special election in January when, again, the pundits said, no, not going to happen. So, yeah, I think you're prescient in your prediction.
That individual is on with us right now, Joe Morrissey. I did predict that he would win that special where everybody said that he would come in on the bottom. He did win that. I also predicted that Bernie Sanders would take Hillary to Philadelphia. They laughed at me for that right again. Joe, you sent a press release out yesterday, which was kind of the catalyst for the timing today. And basically, let me just say that you said that one of your competitors, if you will, for mayor of Richmond, the early money favorite, LeVar Stoney, who is the current secretary, one of the secretaries that Governor McAuliffe has endorsed his candidacy. And you said that Stoney shouldn't accept any campaign contributions from McAuliffe or any of his contributors. Why?
Here's why. Right now, Governor McAuliffe is being investigated by the FBI for receiving a $120,000 contribution from a businessman with ties to both China and the United States. Now, no one is saying that he's done anything wrong, but it's very clear, and reputable sources like CNN reported that this is a several-month-long investigation. Governor McAuliffe says, I don't even know the guy. So let's be clear. I get $120,000 from somebody whom I don't know, who has Chinese connections, which is against federal law, and is currently being investigated. I simply said this. We don't need any influence peddlers in the Richmond mayoral race. I simply called upon Mr. Stoney to not accept any money from McAuliffe's PACs or McAuliffe's individuals until this investigation is complete, because it's tainted money. It's as simple as that.
Well, I mean, what you're saying is, look, we don't know the genesis of some of this money, especially this $100 check. I mean, I just had Speaker Howell on, and I asked him the question. He just ran for re-election. He had a primary battle, a general election opponent. And I said, you know, if you're sitting in your office there in Fredericksburg and you get $120,000 large in the mail, I mean, aren't you going to ask a question? I mean, who does that? I mean, who gets $120,000? This is not $12,000 or $1,200. You get $120,000 from somebody who was a Chinese national. I mean, isn't somebody going to say, who is this guy? What does he want? You know, what do you just say?
Your question is rhetorical. That begs the answer. If I get a $250 check from somebody from Ohio, okay, I'm going to ask folks in my office, who is this person? You know, why are we doing this? Well, you know, why is this money being sent? Much less, you know, $120,000 from a foreign sovereign nation. And you need to scrutinize campaign contributions. For example, John, you know, I'm against payday lending.
Yes.
Whether you agree with me or disagree, I'm against payday lending. I don't like the predatory practices.
I
get a check in the House of Delegates for $1,000 from a firm outside of Virginia. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, look, who is this? And I find out they're major supporters and lobbyists for the payday loan industry. Okay, well, I just send it back. Thank you, gentlemen, but I can't accept this, won't accept it. I could accept it, but I said I won't accept it. So here, same thing applies. There's no question the money was received. There's no question it came from a Chinese-connected individual, and it's no question that the FBI is looking into it. Ergo, it's tainted. I'm simply saying, don't accept any money, Mr. Stoney, from PACs or from individuals tied to McAuliffe until the investigation is complete. And by the way, why would you? If you're running for mayor of Richmond, why would you take money from individuals in California, New York, Miami, who have no connection to Richmond unless they wanted to exert some type of influence? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. And that's all. And nobody is saying, the investigation is going on. Nobody is accusing, saying that McAuliffe broke the law. All we're saying is that it's under investigation by the FBI as to whether or not he broke the law. Therefore, be cautious. That's what.
Yeah, so all you're saying is, look, until this is flushed out, don't accept any money from McAuliffe or McAuliffe's PAC because we don't know what the genesis of that money is, whether it's tainted or not. And if he's cleared, then, accept anything you want. I think that's fair. You also said in your statement that you said, quote, outside influence peddlers should have no role whatsoever in Richmond politics. As for me, you said, I'm an opinionated individual fighting for the underdog who can never be bought. Look, I really think we're in a time right now, Joe Morrissey, that a lot of people are very suspect about this outside money coming in. I think that's one of the things that has fueled Trump in that he self-funded his own campaign. I think that's what's fueling Bernie Sanders. He's got an average donation of $27. He's not beholden to Wall Street, to super PACs or anything else. And I think that matters. I think people are looking now for people to come in and fix their problems because we got a lot of issues in Richmond, throughout Virginia. And if you're spending half your time worrying about pleasing big bundler Wall Street bankster donors, I don't think you're free to do the job for the people you have to do.
There you go. And I've been proselytizing against accepting campaign contributions from people outside of Virginia for years. When I run my races, 99% of my money comes right from the district or the area in which I represent. Mm-hmm. And and right now, I put in that press release, I can't be bought. I don't own any allegiance to unions, to the REA, to the VEA, to Democratic operatives, Republican operatives. I don't owe anybody anything. I don't owe any jobs to anybody. I can go in there if I'm fortunate enough to be elected and say, okay, only people that get jobs are the people with the best skill set that earn it. There's no IOU paybacks, and that's what's so troubling to politics right now. Big money donors. If you make $1 million contribution, let's say to a gubernatorial race, let's be clear. There's a expected quid pro quo. It's expected. And right now, if Mr. Stoney were to receive money from people outside of Richmond, outside of Virginia, especially with this investigation going on, then it makes, I think it's tawdry. And I stand by every word that I said.
Let's get to the methodology of getting elected mayor of Richmond. This is not the easiest thing for the average person to figure out: wards, percentages, runoffs, and how's it all work?
It's pretty simple. The city of Richmond is divided into 9 wards. Fair enough. To win the mayoral election, you have to win 5 or more wards, or a majority of those 9. Again, simple enough. So you really have 9 separate elections going on, and at the end of the day, on November 8th in the evening hours, they're going to say, okay, there's 15 candidates running. Did any one candidate win 5 wards? If the answer is yes, 5 or more. If the answer is yes, that person is mayor-elect. If the answer is no, then the top 2 vote getters run off on December 18th, and on December 18th, the person who gets 5 or more wards wins. It's that simple.
Okay, so let me ask 2 questions because it seems simple, but let me just clarify 2 things.
Sure.
Number 1 is, when you say you have to win 5 of the 9 wards, that's a plurality, right? Not a majority. So with 15 candidates, you could win a ward technically with 19%. Everybody else gets 15, 8, 15, 12, 10.
Sure.
So it's not a majority. It's not 50% plus 1. You can win the ward with a simple plurality.
Right. You have 15 candidates running in the first ward. which is the west end of Richmond, and one candidate, let's say it's Jack Berry. Jack Berry is one of my opponents. Let's say Jack Berry gets 25% of the vote, and the other candidates get below that. Jack Berry wins that ward. He's
Done.
got one of them.
Right. And then you have to win 5. Now, if it goes to a runoff, and I don't think it is because I think you're going to win 5. If it goes to a runoff on December 18th, you say the 2 top vote getters, is that the 2 top ward winners or just total gross
just
votes?
Total vote getters. If you don't have somebody who wins 5 or more wards, then you look to see, okay, who are the top 2 vote getters? And those 2 people then are in a runoff.
That's fascinating. So it's possible, if you do the math here, that somebody could get elected in the first ballot, winning 5 wards, but not getting the highest percentage of the vote in Richmond, because you could win 5 by 1%, 2%, and then somebody else wins 4 of them by 25%. So they actually have more gross votes, but it's kind of like the Electoral College, like Al Gore, George W. 2000, right? So
exactly.
Somebody could get a higher vote total, but the other guy wins 5. That's it. They're mayor.
You're spot on. Normally in the United States, in the presidential elections, the individual who wins the most Electoral College votes also wins the popular vote in the country. But there have been 3 times in our history, in the 19th century, 18th century, and 20th, and the latest was the Al Gore, George Bush race, where one candidate won the most electoral votes, but did not win the most popular vote in the country.
All right, now that was in 2000. I'm going to get a little history here. Do you remember what the other 2 instances were?
Yeah, one was in 1876, and I can't remember the other one. And
Michael's going to look it up. Michael, look up who are the 3 candidates that got elected president and didn't have a majority of the popular vote. One was George Bush in 2000. Hey, let's get to Redskins, okay? Talking about coming to Richmond. Everybody's been all over the name. The Washington Post, for instance, stopped calling them the Redskins. They call them the Washington football team, whatever they do. Now we get this poll out done by the Washington Post themselves. And they must have been like just spitting vinegar to print this thing. So they find out that 90% of Native Americans think the Washington Redskins name is fine. It's cool. They're good with it. They like it. What say you?
Same thing. I actually, John, you remember in the House of Delegates, I represented Charles City County.
Yeah.
Charles City County has more Native Americans than any county, I think, in the country.
Right.
And so I'd ask my constituents down there, what do you think about the name the Washington Redskins? And I can't think of one person that said, I'm offended by it. They actually thought that it was honorable, that Braves, Warriors were named. They had the name on the Washington Redskins, so it wasn't offensive to them. So I'm not surprised by the Washington Post poll, and interestingly, Dan Snyder, all along stood up for that name, and it turns out that I think if you did a poll of everybody, you'd find that it's not offensive. So if it's not offensive to the main category, then why are we even talking about changing the name?
No, I think you're spot on there. And Chap Peterson and others have been fighting this for some time, so they were exonerated. I'm going to get to transgender bathrooms, tough issue. You've got a daughter. What does one of these administrators that are in favor of genderless showers and bathrooms tell the parents of a middle school daughter that it's okay for her to be in a shower and a male goes in exposing his male organ to them and they're 12 years old and the parents don't like that? Like, I don't think that's a good thing. The Democrats call me a generational Neanderthal. Maybe I am. I'll wear that with a badge of honor. But like, I don't want a 13-year-old going into my 13-year-old daughter's shower when she was 13. I mean, what do you tell the parent that just doesn't like that?
Okay. First of all, I people who think we made there's been no drama, no issues about this. 30 years ago, I graduated from and I backpacked around Europe, and a lot of the European bathrooms are unisex. I remember walking into a French bathroom, and it's got, it has stalls, of course, but it's unisex for either gender. There are no drama. There's no over there, and I don't believe in. I tell my kids all the time, don't make drama where there's none. So, I there, and I do. The only problem that I do see is I've often maintained local school districts in Laramie, Laredo, San Diego, what to do. That's when I start having a little problem.
Well, me too. I think you're spot on with that. We don't need the federal government telling local school boards what to do and threatening them. The other two candidates, Arthur B. Hayes, Benjamin Harrison. We're out of time. I want to thank Joe Morrissey for being with us today. He's going to win this race. Joe, thanks for being with us.